Daniel had always felt trapped in a cycle of failure. Every year, he set ambitious goals: wake up at 5 a.m., go to the gym daily, read a book a week, write a novel. But no matter how determined he felt at the beginning, he always found himself slipping back into his old habits. At first, he thought he lacked willpower. Maybe some people were just naturally disciplined, and he wasn't one of them. He scrolled through social media, seeing others effortlessly succeed, while he struggled to even maintain consistency for a few weeks. He promised himself that next time would be different. Next time, he would be stronger. Next time, he wouldn't fail. But next time always looked the same as before. He would start strong, full of motivation, pushing himself to wake up early, go for long runs, and stick to a rigorous writing schedule. But life would inevitably get in the way. A late night would make him too tired to wake up early. A stressful workday would lead him to skip his workout. His novel in progress would start to feel overwhelming, and he would stop writing altogether. Days turned into weeks, and before he knew it, his resolutions were forgotten. By the time another new year came around, he was right back where he started. One evening, as he lay in bed mindlessly scrolling through his phone, he came across a book recommendation: Atomic Habits by James Clear. The title intrigued him. He had read self-improvement books before, but most of them just told him to try harder or stay motivated. That never worked for him. But this book claimed something different: that habits were not about willpower, but about systems. That people didn't fail because they weren't disciplined enough. They failed because their approach was broken. He bought the book immediately, eager to see if it could finally help him break free from his cycle of failure. As he began reading, he was struck by a simple but powerful idea. Small habits compound over time, just like interest in a bank account. He had always believed that success came from massive actions, dramatic overhauls of his lifestyle, overnight transformations. But Clear explained that real change happens through tiny improvements. A 1% improvement each day might not seem like much, but over time, it leads to exponential growth. He read about the British cycling team, which had been mediocre for decades until a new coach, Dave Brailsford, came in with a revolutionary approach. Instead of trying to make massive changes, Brailsford focused on tiny, seemingly insignificant improvements. Adjusting bike seats for better comfort, refining the team's diet, even ensuring the riders washed their hands properly to avoid illness. At first, these changes were barely noticeable, but after a few years, the team became unstoppable, winning multiple championships and dominating the sport. Daniel realized he had been making the same mistake for years. He had always tried to change his life all at once, setting huge goals that were impossible to sustain. No wonder he always failed. He decided to apply the 1% rule to his own life. Instead of forcing himself to run 5 miles a day, he started by putting on his running shoes and walking for 5 minutes. Instead of trying to write 1,000 words a day, he committed to writing just 1 sentence. It felt almost too easy, but that was the point. He was building momentum. As he continued reading, another idea shook him to his core. True change comes from identity, not outcomes. He realized that he had always focused on the end goal: run a marathon, write a book, get fit, but he had never focused on becoming the kind of person who naturally did those things. He read the line: "Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become." That changed everything for him. Instead of thinking, "I want to run a marathon," he started telling himself, "I am a runner." Instead of saying, "I want to write a book," he told himself, "I am a writer." By shifting his focus from what he wanted to accomplish to who he wanted to become, his habits started to feel more natural. Runners don't decide whether or not to run each day, they just do. Writers don't struggle to find time to write. They write because it's part of who they are. Every time he went for a short jog, he was reinforcing the identity of a runner. Every time he wrote even a single sentence, he was strengthening his identity as a writer. Over time, these small actions accumulated, and his habit started feeling effortless. He also learned about the habit loop, the four-step process that governs every habit: cue, craving, response, and reward. To build better habits, he needed to make the cues obvious, the cravings attractive, the responses easy, and the rewards satisfying. To make running a habit, he placed his shoes right next to his bed, so they were the first thing he saw in the morning. He made the habit more attractive by allowing himself to listen to his favorite podcast only while running. He made it easy by starting with just 2 minutes of jogging. And he made it satisfying by tracking his progress in a journal. At the same time, he made bad habits harder by removing their cues. He used to waste hours at night scrolling through social media, so he started placing his phone across the room before bed. He found himself binge-watching TV shows, so he deleted streaming apps from his phone and logged out of his accounts on his laptop. He stopped relying on willpower and instead designed his environment to make good habits inevitable and bad habits difficult. One of the most transformative lessons came when he read about the plateau of latent potential. Clear explained that people often give up on their habits because they don't see immediate results. But change works like an ice cube slowly warming up from 25 degrees Fahrenheit to 31 degrees Fahrenheit. Nothing seems to happen at first. Then, at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, the ice suddenly melts. Daniel realized that every small action he took was heating up the ice, even if he couldn't see the change yet. He had always expected instant results, but now he understood that progress was happening beneath the surface. Weeks turned into months, and he started noticing real transformations. He could run 3 miles without stopping. His novel had grown to 30,000 words. He had read more books in a few months than he had in the past 5 years. But most importantly, he didn't have to force himself to do these things anymore. They were just part of who he was. There were still challenges along the way. He got sick and missed a workout. He overslept and skipped writing. In the past, this would have led to him quitting altogether. But this time, he remembered another rule from the book: never miss twice. Missing one day was an accident. Missing 2 days in a row was the start of a new habit. Instead of punishing himself, he simply got back on track the next day. By the end of the year, Daniel looked back and realized he was no longer the same person. He wasn't just trying to be a writer. He was a writer. He wasn't forcing himself to be fit. He was fit. His transformation hadn't come from one grand decision, but from the accumulation of tiny atomic habits. He smiled, knowing he had finally escaped the cycle of failure. And it all started with one small habit at a time.